Hello, my crafty friend, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's junk journal flip through video. Before I get started, I have to show off my cool new bracelet from my friend May in Saudi Arabia. Thank you, May. My absolute favorite color is turquoise, and my favorite theme is anything sea themed, so this is just my new favorite. So cool. Well, actually, no, my new second favorite after the Sun, Moon, Stars bracelet she gave me for my birthday. But anyway, had to share that. So yeah, this week, instead of making a new journal from scratch, I actually took one of the blank journals out of my shop and gave it a makeover. I added a really textured tassel made of all kinds of different trims and yarns and laces that add that bit of, junk journal flair. I attached it to a little binder clip so it can be easily taken off and used elsewhere if you prefer to use it elsewhere. On a little textile pin, I added a beautiful Sri Yantra or Sri Chakra charm. The symbology in this is really cool. It's centered inside what's represented, or a stylistic lotus petal pattern, which represents the key to enlightenment. The upward facing triangles represent divine masculine energy, while the downward facing triangles represent divine feminine energy. So it's meant to be sort of like an alchemy between masculine and feminine energies. And I just love the way it looks. So I'll set that to the side. And you might recognize the picture on the front that I pulled out of an art history textbook. I kept that the same, but I tucked into it a super cool antique book in Welsh. And this is one of my favorite little finds of the summer. My boyfriend Kenley and I did a road trip into the mountains, and on our way we stopped at a little town called Fort Macleod, which is the birthplace of Cat Stone's favorite artist, Joni Mitchell. So I always love stopping in Fort Macleod. Actually, as a little joke, I came up with a thing whenever we get to the sign that says Fort Macleod, when I'm driving with my mom or my auntie, whoever thinks of it first will say, Ermagerd, and then the rest of the car has to respond, it's Fort Macleod. I don't know if you remember that, but a while ago, viral cat videos would have cats, instead of say, oh my God, they'd say Ermagerd. Anyway, so for 15 Canadian dollars, I actually got a stack of 5 of these little books, which is why instead of just putting a page out of it, I decided to give the book in its entirety. So cool, isn't it? I love using ephemera. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not quite antique. It's from 1927. So in 3 years, it will be officially 100 years old and officially antique. But yeah, I just loved the yellowed paper, the details in this illustration. And interestingly, so on our road trip, Kenley loves to put on a radio program that he found called The Blue Bus, which I love the Doors, so I love the title of the program. And the DJ who does the Blue Bus, or do you call it a DJ? The host of the radio program, he always likes to give tidbits of information as he plays the music. And the particular episode we were listening to of the Blue Bus, he played one of my all-time favorite songs called Rhiannon by Stevie Nicks, of course. And the song Rhiannon is about a Welsh witch. And so I got so excited when, we stop into the Fort Macleod antique store and I buy a stack of Welsh ephemera. And then the first song that plays as we head back onto the highway is Rhiannon. So I took that as a cool sign. Isn't this a beautiful stick pin? So yeah, I'm just going to go straight into the stuff inside. I put a little cluster of beautiful fabrics onto a coffee dyed envelope. And you can kind of see the faint hint of a seahorse shape on this side and more detailed seahorse on that side, because these envelopes I coffee dyed and stenciled. And did a little cluster of fabric to hide the old address on the side. So yeah, this just sits in the front. And then in a tuck spot made out of this beautiful sequined trim, I added a little piece of khadi paper. That's handmade paper from India. Really pretty and really shiny. And I felt like it went perfectly with that little tuck spot. So yeah, I consider this book to be, quite mystical in the origin of that cover booklet. These pieces, of course, are from the lovely Angelica from Austria. She sent me the coolest little bundle of like a bound book of receipts from 1950. And what I love about them is that each one has stapled to it a little cluster of related ephemera, like the receipt stubs and check stubs, all with handwritten notes and stamps. I just thought that looked so beautiful as the first page. On the second page, so the old book called The Understanding Heart, I actually bought it just because I love the title of the book and I feel like it goes beautifully with the junk journal theme. And I took a piece of my coffee dyed paper. It's a little grungy with glue spots, but I think that's forgivable since it has this cool texture and look to it. And that makes this possible to write on. So yeah, I've heard other junk journal artists recommend gessoing over the writing on old book pages to make it writable. But you can also just tear a little bit of regular paper or cut if you prefer it. But I think most of us prefer a teared line to a cut line, don't we? So yeah, that makes a good title page. I took a little bit of Dresden cardboard trim and glued it to the bottom just to be cute. And I consider it very lucky because it's shaped like a 4-leaf clover inside. So turning the page, I put a beautiful little red stamp from Finland just for a pop of color. And it has a really cool mythical beast on it. I can't quite tell whether that's a dragon or what, but it's cool looking. Took a piece of old music page ephemera. This is a reproduction, but perfectly sized for this. And in it made a tuck spot for this journal card. So this is available as one of the printables in my treasures from my personal junk journal collection. I just inked the back to make it look a little bit older. But yeah, I love the juxtaposition of the bright spring flowers on the moonlit sea. And adorned the corner with a little piece of lace to mirror the lace that's hanging down from the bottom here. It can't quite fit into the frame, but well, maybe, there we go. I can fit a bit more of it in. So yeah, I made a pocket out of this lace on an old map page. And this is just a little bit of mesh that I glued to this page and beneath the music on the other page, just to strengthen that old book paper a little bit more. A Life Illumined is another one of those old books that I bought just because I liked the title and thought it would look good in collages. So we have that. We have another of my favorite postcards. I love this girl sitting pensively. You can tell she's reading a novel. She has the most glamorous emerald necklace imaginable and beautiful bracelets on each wrist. I love that old forehead adornment. So cool. And of course, on the screen behind her, we have a bluebird of happiness. I have to put one in every journal. And then this tiny little envelope I made from a printable by the Paper Cameo. Oops. I didn't mean to glue it shut when I added this little stamp. I meant for that to be a tuck spot. So I'm just going to really carefully peel this. There we go. So yeah, that stamp is meant to be a tuck spot, but now I guess it's more of a flap. And I stuffed this little envelope with some really neat stamps. So vintage stamps from around the world. And I love these ones from France. I almost pulled these apart so I could keep one and share one, but I thought, nope. They're attached, they're meant to go together. But doesn't that look so cool? And a couple of them still on their backing paper. So yeah, that way I felt like whoever gets the journal, there are still some blank pages left in here to be adorned and played with, like this side here, for example. So I thought it's nice to include old book pages and bits that can be used as ephemera. This flips over. I love this glassine envelope. One of my Happy Mail packages from May had a beautiful note tucked into this envelope, and I thought I would pass it forward just because my supply stash has become so large, and also because it was the perfect size to tuck some French book play pages. That's from a French play, Act 3, Scene 5. Tears of Gold, another cool title for a book, and a page out of A Tale of Two Cities. So yeah, I thought that was kind of a sweet way to display some vintage book pages. And yeah, you saw me flip over this envelope. Inside it, I've put one of my little hand-painted Bluebird of Happiness cards. So I didn't paint the whole card. I found these cards thrifting, and originally there was a little red cardinal perched in the tree branch, but I took some blue paint and just painted over it to turn it into a Bluebird of Happiness. So yeah, that just sits in here, offering quite a bit of journaling space, considering you can also write directly onto the back of that envelope. And my regular viewers will recognize these things immediately. These are my Kintsugi Victorian vases. So Kintsugi is a Japanese word, if you're new here, that refers to the art of repairing broken pottery with pure gold. And so the way I do these, after I fussy cut the image, which is also in my Treasures from My Personal Junk Journal printable kit, I tear them. And instead of gluing them back together, I use some gold acrylic paint and then push the paper back together. And so it affixes it just like a Kintsugi vase. And I think it's probably my favorite thing I've ever come up with to put in junk journals, because Kintsugi represents becoming stronger and better versions of ourselves, not despite our flaws and our mistakes, but because of them. So when we make a mistake, or if we do something that we regret, if we learn from that and re-strategize and advance ourselves from there, we'll never make that same mistake twice. We'll always progress, we'll always get better, we'll gain new perspective, and we'll become more interesting as people. So I feel like Kintsugi represents that evolution that happens in us when we experience what we might consider to be a mistake or a flaw. And so just as the Japanese would not discard broken pottery, but would repair it with gold, making it even stronger and also much more valuable and much more beautiful, more visually interesting. It's like, you know, in olden days when somebody would get a pimple, a woman would get a pimple, and instead of trying to cover it up with concealer, she would darken it with eyeliner to make it look like a beauty mark. It's kind of like that. And of course, I also like to gild the edges with acrylic paint. So yeah, this one can be used as a journal card. This one I've glued down as a tuck spot. Personally, I just love the way they look layered. So yeah, I've tried to, in the beginning of the book, add something interesting to every page. I tucked a little butterfly into this pocket that I made out of sari fabric. Here's another old book page. This time I parted with one of my precious title pages. These are my favorite for my personal junk journals because there's so much blank space to write on. Yeah, what would that be called? Monsieur le Trouhadec, saisi par le débouche. Comédie en 5 actes. Oh, so it's a comedy. A comedy in 5 acts. Really cool. Oh, and this is sitting on top of a piece of wallpaper that I glued down. This is my surprise wallpaper when I moved in with my boyfriend, and luckily I have a bedroom slash craft room all to myself in the house. Under the sink in the ensuite bathroom, I found a perfect unopened roll of this wallpaper that clearly one of the house owners somewhere in time had meant to put on the walls and never did. And yay, I'm glad they never did, because the little detailed flowers are just so precious and so perfect in scale to put in a junk journal. So that paper gives you quite a bit of writing space. And even if you want to just leave it there and right here, I think that would look really cool. And then a couple of views of an ancient goddess figurine. I absolutely love looking at not just art history, but specifically art from the ancient world. As a jewelry obsessed person, I love reading about the history of jewelry, not just jewelry for the beautiful sparkly diamonds that we all find so cool and precious, but jewelry from an anthropological perspective. And I think it's really cool that jewelry was the very first art form in the world, but I think coming in at a close second were goddess carvings. And it's really fun to imagine why they would depict her head looking like a tree stump. why her arms are wrapped around her boobs like this. It's very interesting. But I just thought it looked cool tucked into this page. Here we have the most adorable little boy fairy riding on a moth in the woods. This is art by the impeccably talented Cat Stone, and I turned that into a tuck spot on another piece of matte paper and added a Magic Eye postcard. So these were all the rage when I was a kid in the 90s. Whoops, I had it upside down. These were all the rage when I was a kid in the 90s. Here, I'm going to hold it like this. So if you like to actually do Magic Eyes, you can maybe pause it and see the 3D image that comes alive from within this. But even if you don't do Magic Eyes, it's some good journaling space, and the colors are just stunning and perfectly coordinated with the colors in this moth. And you know me, I sometimes like to be matchy-matchy. And speaking of matchy-matchy, I picked for this page a moth stamp, a dragonfly, and I'm not sure what that little green insect is, but he sure is cute. And these are just affixed with washi tape, so that can be easily taken off and used elsewhere. Another book page, Tarzan's First Love. This is one of my favorite new details. I've never done this in a journal before, but I think I'm going to do it again. I took a piece of origami paper and folded it so it can be, oops, a little pop-out detail. And I love this design with the cranes. And on this bottom corner, I stuck one of my favorite little pieces of French ephemera, a 1960s fairy tale castle stamp. Super cute. So yeah, I decided to leave some pages just blank so that they can be obviously written on and adorned, but I added a little bit of blue ombre trim and made a tuck spot out of a mermaid to hold a page out of. An old Canadian book from the 1930s about accounting. So again, lots of book pages in here, so whoever gets this can use them in their own collaging and decorating. Page from a book about how to draw portraits. Tuck spot. So this tuck spot is the corner of an envelope that came in a packet that I found at an antique store of old stamps. And I decided to leave it as is. It can be a really good little bookmark. But on the back, I made a pocket out of this cute little piece of Indian trim. And inside that little pocket, the way it was glued down, it could only fit a tiny little strip. So I took a page out of an English-Russian dictionary and folded it up. And it's funny, I opened the dictionary to a random page thinking, I hope there's a good word associated with journals on it. And sure enough, the word message is there. So cute. And I think every journal holds a message. To me, crafting is just magical. I think, who was it? I think it was Rox. Hi, Rox, who commented last week that she loves how all the things I put in the journals, there's a story to it and a meaning behind it. And I think that probably traces back to my time in art school when we were taught, you know, there's a message not only in the subject, but also in the medium. What we choose to make the art out of holds a message. And so there's just significance in everything. This is an old piece of French paper from 1912. This is out of a book for architects and engineers. So this is all related to engineering. On this page, I actually took an envelope and folded it over so that it becomes two separate pockets. And in one pocket, I put a journaling card that I made by printing out an antique Indian ohm and then just kind of gilding around the edges and inking on the back. I love these ohms. And then on the other side, I think this is one of my favorite neat little pieces. Angelica recently blessed me with another happy mail. Thank you, Angelica. I'm starting a journal for her, by the way, as a special thank you for all the magical stuff she sends me. This is a handwritten page out of an autograph book from 1936. And, you know, before we had a Facebook wall where people could leave us messages or Instagram comment sections or whatever it is, people would carry actual little booklets with them and have their friends sign a page. And I think that's so much cooler. You know, calling cards, so much cooler than just texting somebody your phone number. Autograph books, so much cooler than social media. And I know that sounds ironic as somebody talking to you on YouTube right now, but I just adore these old-fashioned things. So thank you again, Angelica. Here's a cool little fan that I found at my local thrift store, and it's pinned to this page from a pin that goes through on the other side. But so cute, this little girl wearing a kimono and skipping. And the little flowers are so sweet too. So the wooden handle does add some bulk to the book, so you might want to take it out and use it, but I think it just looks sweet. And you can flip it over and write on this ledger. The last time somebody wrote on this ledger was 1967. How cool is that? So yeah, this flips over. I think the most commented on features I sometimes put in these journals or when I use ledger to hold a collection of trims. So these ones in shades of kind of avocado green and shocking pink and lighter pink and orange and yellow, just such happy summery colors. These were in a happy mail from the lovely Tanya, whose channel is called My Jewelry Addiction. And when I realized that they just fit perfectly into this book, I thought immediately of another gorgeous trim that was gifted to me by Kat Stone. Look at how well the colors go. Like, you would think these were made to go together. So that flips up, and then I also included a piece of this gorgeous sheer fabric. This was originally the fabric backing that these trims were affixed to. Oh, you know what? I put that in backwards. Look how much prettier it is when it's forwards. Oh no. Well, you know what? It goes with the junk journal vintage vibe backwards too, doesn't it? So anyway, you can take those off easily enough. They're just pinned in place. I'm not going to bother trying to fix it right now because you know how I struggle with doing things like that if the camera's rolling. But yeah, super cute. And then in the little pocket on this page, I stuck one of the coolest playing cards I've ever seen. That happy mail from Angelica also included some really stunning vintage playing cards. And I love how this bird is kind of sitting within a mid-century modern looking background. I know my Auntie Mary Lynn will love that. It has kind of an atomic style to it with the little gilded stars. Super cute. A pink bird of happiness. And I just felt that the pink and gold went perfectly with this page, with the pink and gold. And even when this is shut, you can kind of see some of that. So, old music paper with some handwritten pencil notes on top. Some graph paper. This is really fun. This is from a vintage wedding album that I found at an antique store. It's handmade paper with these silver and gold strands made right into it. That's from a 1960s lapidary magazine. So yeah, a lot of these pages can be collaged over. This one had a tear in it, so I just stuck a random piece of other book page over it. But yeah, as you can see, I left lots of blank space for the future owner of the book to work on too. I tried to make it the best of both worlds, adorned and also left for expansion. This is cool. This is from an old book about how to use a typewriter. Some dot grid paper. Very fun to draw on. I might do a demonstration video later. So yeah, last week I had shared some of my abstract art while doing a flip through. And thank you so much to those who encouraged me to share more of it, especially May and Kat. Like, you two always know how to brighten my day. But yeah, there's an art in South India called Rangoli, where they trace really intricate geometric patterns using rice powder in front of their doorways to welcome guests and to bring good luck. And it's all based on dot matrices and kind of drawing around the matrices to create geometrically symmetrical designs. Anyway, I'm not going to do it right now. I don't even know why I got into it, but yeah, if you're into designing symmetrical drawings, dot graph paper, it's for more than just bullet journaling. This really cool piece from a book about French grammar. Couple pages. And this, of course, is computer printer paper from when I was a kid, back when the printers had these perforated edges. I used to love tearing these off and playing with them. Little flowers from May, some of May's famous coffee-dyed paper. And a piece from a book about embroidery. Really cute central spread, isn't it? Things you can make for the kitchen, aprons and pot holders. I just love old illustrations. They're so much fun to look at. This is cool. This little piece is a Sri Lankan train ticket. Not vintage yet, but in our part of the world, it sure looks like a vintage piece. I had read, when I was in Sri Lanka, actually, that their train system still uses the tickets that were around, now I don't remember how many years ago, but from what I recall, it's the last place in the world that still uses these kinds of tickets, and that's why they have such a cool vintage vibe to them. Stuck a little piece of vintage jewelry from a junk jewelry jar to adorn that paper clip. Loaded this pocket with a gorgeous fairy with a couple of her familiars. Beautiful cat and a beautiful raven. This was painted by Cat Stone. And I added an extra page from that typewriter book just because it looks so cool. Yeah, if you're into junk journals and you don't already do so, I highly encourage you to check out your local thrift shops, because an old book is basically instant ephemera. And these are just some prints of crystals printed onto sticky paper so they can be cut out and used as stickers. We have watermelon tourmaline slices, a moldavite Buddha, some papagoite in quartz, and a stunning aquamarine crystal, my favorite color. And speaking of cat stone, this piece was also painted by her. Oops. Look at this glamour girl in her black gown with her gold tights. I just love the way Kat adorns these by painting over the prints using glitter. So, so cool. And yeah, this time I put a sun and moon charm on the paper clip. A little flower stamp from Saint Thomas et Principe. This cool fabric I found at another thrift store, and it just has such a cool print on it that looks like a tag, doesn't it? Like you could write something in here, and I think that would look fun to write directly onto the fabric. And I put a few more pages of that English to Russian dictionary. Oh, look at this. A 4-leaf clover. Wow, oh my goodness, it's disintegrating, but I didn't know that was in there. So whoever gets this book, wow, remember how I said it's lucky? Because, how isn't that just exciting? I said it was lucky because this piece looks like a 4-leaf clover. How cool is that? When I tore these out of the book, I didn't even really go through, but you get an actual 4-leaf clover. You know what I'm going to do right now? Pardon me. Just because this is bugging me, I'm going to, let's see. I'm going to find something to glue that down on so that you have it better preserved. Here's what I've got. So I'd started making a journal tag out of this cool piece. So what I'm going to do is put some dots of glue here. How special is that? I wasn't planning to do any crafting on camera today. It's very fragile. See, it just broke in my fingers. I'm going to make sure to use every little piece. Wow, we have patches of clover in my front yard, and every day, not every day, every time I'm doing any yard work, I check to see if any of them are four-leaf clovers, and I've never found one yet in the wild. You can tell I'm nearing the end of my bottle of glue by that whistly sound it makes. There we go. Now it's going to be kept a little bit more intact. And I'm also going to see if I have, let's see. Pardon me again, I'm walking away to get scissors. I'm going to glue a little bit of mesh over it just so it's held in place. Don't you love the spontaneity of crafting? So I'm going to let the glue hold this where it is. Good thing tacky glue dries clear. I'm just going to put a little bit of it there. And a little bit here. Normally I'd use Fabri-Tac for that, but I don't want to go searching for my Fabri-Tac mid-video. So I'll use what I've got close. How exciting! You get a 4-leaf clover. Whoever buys this. If this book doesn't sell, I'm thinking in the first... Well, let's not put time to it. If this book doesn't sell before Etsy asks me to renew the listing, I'm keeping it. But there we go. How cool is that? I want to do one more thing. Let's see. I'm going to use a little pin to poke a hole in the paper backing here. There we go. Just going to pop that right through. There, that way it can be I can tie a little string to it to make that into a proper little tag. How adorable is that? You get a 4-leaf clover. You know what I was saying? It was magical when the Stevie Nicks song Rhiannon started playing right after I found that Welsh ephemera. So I knew that there would be some special magic in this book, but I had no idea. It was just yesterday that I added this piece and noticed the 4-leaf clover looking bit in the center. I had no idea there was an actual 4-leaf clover in there. Super special. So yeah, a stamp to fix a little tear that was in this page. Isn't that cool? Royal Bank of Canada from the 1930s. More matte paper. These are just the other sides of the pages I left blank in the front of the book. Music paper. I'm sorry, I'm distracted now thinking how cool that is that there's a 4-leaf clover there. Maybe somebody out there needs a little bit of good luck and they'll come to this book and find it. A little cluster, just a little snippet of beautiful green sari trim over one of my favorite ever wallpaper or wrapping paper finds. I found not even half a roll. It was like maybe 12 inches of this at a local thrift store for 25 cents. And it was really rough, really crumpled, kind of discarded looking. And, you know, some people might go into thrift stores and think, you know, why would anybody buy garbage? But when you're a junk journal maker, that's literally treasure. Anyway, this beautiful strip of paper is an illustration out of a kid's book. And I just cut it down to size so that it would fit exactly on the other side of this vintage ledger. But how cool is that? A beautiful tree house. And the tree looks to be alive. And I love the little cricket with his walking stick standing under a little grove of mushrooms. And even the little cricket has his own little tree house. Super cute. Oh yeah, this is out of Beauty and the Beast. Don't worry, there's a happy ending. So yeah, kids' books are another of my favorite things to thrift. They're usually a fraction of the cost of adult books when you go to the thrift store because there's just so many of them. But the colors, the whimsy look really magical. And hanging from the bottom of that paper clip, I put a cute little moon charm that shows a log cabin in the woods on water with a mountain and the sun in the background. I just adore these little charms. A little sample of beautiful silvered coddy paper. Little telescope tag to hold an envelope in which I put quite a few of these fun sort of marbled playing cards. Just vintage. Oh, you get a queen. I love the court cards because they're like little miniature works of art. That goes there. The other side of that 1912 page. This is brand new to me. These two little tuck spots that I added are just stunning little sequin trim bits that were in my most recent Happy Mail from May. She knows how much I love turquoise. And it's her favorite color too, so I try to use lots of it in the books I make for her as well. And I'm like a magpie. I love shiny things, collecting shiny things. But yeah, this one is just have to show you all the little goodies in it. Anyway, I used this tuck spot to hold some strips of stickers. So you can use this like washi tape, but give me some space. Shine on, Moon Dreamer. I love the galaxy strip. Love the moon cycles too, and all the astrology signs. So yeah, there's some stickers you can use decorating your journal. Remember the beautiful woman's portrait in the front. Here we have a man's portrait in the back. Now in the front, of this book, I had actually ripped this page in half. This is like a big piece of drawing paper that I folded and sewed in. That way it can be used as a pocket. But if you want to increase your writing space, you can just rip that open and suddenly you've got 4 pages instead of just 2. But for the time being, I put into it this really gorgeous 1920s German page from Angelica. Look at how gorgeous that writing is, that font. Okay, I could nerd out on that font all day. It's just so pretty. And we're nearing the end. A page of Egyptology out of an art history textbook. Really cool. The discovery of the Sphinx. Such a neat old etching. Kind of goes with the desert colors on this matte page, doesn't it? And we're at the back already. So here's the other side of that receipt from 1950. And I love this. So my personal junk journal, a big giant one that I made that I've called my hoarder book. The back is trimmed with this fringe trim because it's just so stunning with the little beaded tassels. So yeah, I draped that from the bottom and it can be used as a tuck spot. I've tucked in, oops, yet another vintage German playing card. Look at the size of those clubs. Isn't that cool? And the 10's kind of cut off where the corners are rounded. I love that. I love old things, obviously. I wouldn't make journals like these if I didn't. So yeah, this stunning blue and gold fabric from May as the pocket. This beautiful blue cotty paper that was from Cat. Yeah, blues, blues, blues. Even empty, I think that page looks quite stunning. So anyhow, this is one of May's newest coffee dyed papers. I couldn't wait to start using it. When you get this book, whoever buys it, you will smell the most stunning Arabian coffee. Like you can actually still smell the coffee. I don't know how she does it, but it's stunning. And look at how 3D that leaf print texture turns out looking. So yeah, and she gave me so much of it. I'm so fortunate. And then this is just a paint sample card. I love these colors. And I felt like it went with the colors of the book. And then one more little vintage wallpaper sample, just to use wherever you choose. Oh, and look at that, I rhymed. So one thing I forgot to point out, where the book is sewn together at the signature here, whoops, the center of the signature, I dangled some beads, as we do. Just a stunning blue spiraled glass bead. A bead that has really neat, doesn't this look like the detail you'd see on an old castle door? I just thought that was such a fun puffed bead. And a tree of life charm. I think that's something our Welsh witches would agree with. So anyway, I'm not gonna close it up because I want this glue to dry first, but yeah, before it's shipped off to its next home, I'll add some string and make a little pocket for this and tuck it somewhere. So yeah, thank you for joining me. This video turned out to be a little bit longer than I planned it to be, but like I said, I didn't think I'd be doing any spontaneous crafting on camera today, but wow, I had to give this 4-leaf clover a safer way to include it so it wouldn't totally crumble and get lost. So as always with my journals, I like to give a ring, and this time it is this adorable little butterfly. And instead of tying it to the side of the book, I felt like it would look amazing. Oops, right here. And of course, because I'm filming, it's becoming more of a struggle than it's meant to be. right here to crown our tassel. So yeah, you can obviously wear it by just pulling it off. But yeah, I love the little cute, very dainty butterfly. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed this flip through as much as I did. I'm genuinely thrilled about that 4-leaf clover. And now I'm determined I'll have to find another one at some point. But yeah, hopefully watching this video brings you some of the luck of the Irish, and yeah, and maybe some crafty ideas or inspirations. Let me know what you're working on. Let me know what your favorite thing was in the book. And I look forward to seeing you again next week. So much love to you. Bye for now.